All right, welcome everybody. So glad that you're here. Steve will be here in just a moment to tell you about his experience swinging on a swing for over 36 hours and having over 50, 60 chats with people around the world about mental health and their experiences, both personally and in the workplace. Super excited to be here. And it's my wife, Rahel's birthday today. So I'm happy it's Friday. Getting ready for the weekend. We have a lot of friends coming out and going to be here tonight and for the weekend and going to have a lot of fun. Oh, here's Steve. I'm going to let him in right now. Steve!
Well, hello. Can you hear me?
Oh, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me, Matt?
Oh, wait, I'm on mute. It's my fault. I'm not on mute, but my
Matt?
speaker's on mute. All right, there we go. Hello?
Matt, can you hear me?
Yes, we're good to go.
Yes, I can't hear you.
You cannot? That's weird. I'm not on mute.
Hang on.
No.
I literally just got off a train. Sorry.
No, I get it.
And I'm so excited about what we're talking about today. My volume's all the way up. Talk some more?
Yeah, hello. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I don't hear you at all.
Yeah.
Let me come off of Bluetooth, see if that changes anything.
Yeah, you never know with the Bluetooth if it's going to connect or not.
Can you hear me now?
I do. Do you hear me?
Would you talk?
Hello?
I can't hear you at all.
Oh, that's really strange. Huh. Yeah, if I look, I mean.
Let's see.
Now I'm on unmute. You hear me now?
Yeah, man, I don't hear you at all.
You don't hear anything.
Which makes me wonder if the audience hears you.
Yeah, let me check on my phone real quick and I can see.
I'm going to leave and come back in and just see what happens.
All right, we'll try that. Hello? Which makes me wonder if the audience hears you. Yeah, let me check. Okay, well, anyways, technical difficulties, stuff happens sometimes. I see that at least the audience hears me. So again, it's good to have you here. And, Steve will be back in a minute, give you his experiences talking with, many people around the world and in different organizations, different job roles, and just to share his experiences over the weekend. And we collected over 36 hours of footage from all of these different people, and we'll be posting that on a regular basis, just getting it out there. And the whole idea behind it is just to understand where people are at in terms of mental health and wellness, and what are people doing about it. How are we going to improve mental health and wellness? Hey, you hear me now?
Now I hear you.
Okay. No, it was working for me. I checked the live stream, so the audience could hear me. I guess just had a bad connection or something.
But you can hear me now as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. Glad to hear that. So how are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Like I was telling the audience, it's my wife Rahel's birthday today.
Yeah, it's a big day for her. You're right.
Yeah,
and the family,
friends and people around, and it's going to be a great weekend. I'm really excited about it.
Well, in Carolina, there with you. At least I found a place together. Whether people with us now or they get it later, I got to tell you, what is today? Friday? Yeah. So it was 7 days ago or 6 days ago I lost the swing, right? and bro, the post swing lessons are epic. But Why don't you, if you haven't already, give our audience a sense of what we want to chat about today, and then we can dive into it for a few.
Yeah. And sorry, Steve, you're breaking up a bit. I don't know, maybe it's the location, but I kind of already premised this with the audience earlier that you had done this event over the weekend. You had 50, 60 or more conversations with people around the world, people who had different backgrounds and opinions and worked at different organizations. And I'm really curious to hear your insights and what you learned from all of those different conversations and about the workplace and about wellness and well-being and mental health.
Can you hear me better now?
That sounds a little better. Yeah, you're not breaking up.
Okay, well, I decided not to move, and it says I have full service. Sorry about that. I'd really hoped to get to my hotel by now, but let's start with this. A big thank you for you, Matt, for playing such a vital role in orchestrating the entire event, and particularly doing it 7,000 miles away while we were live. I can't say thank you enough for what you did to help support a volunteer staff of over 25 people, the logistics associated with the Guinness Book of World Records. All I know is I swang long enough, and supposedly I broke a record, but you took care of everything else, and I can't say thank you enough, brother. So a big shout out to you.
You're welcome, and it's my pleasure. I'm really passionate about all this.
Cool. So lesson number one. Every person I talked to, I asked in roundabout ways because I didn't want to be direct or leading, right? I just wanted to see what came out. Hey, are you mentally healthy all the time? Do you deal with mental health issues? 100% of the participants who came, I think, from 4 continents. Yeah, 4 continents. From, I believe it was 17 or 18 countries. And well over a dozen or 2 states, right? I mean, a lot of people from a lot of backgrounds. Everyone said in one way or the other, yes, pardon my French, but I got shit to deal with, right? Like, to me, that's so important to hear, because as leaders in corporate America, oftentimes we're supposed to have our stuff together so we can help everybody else. But the truth is the mental health crisis is a crisis because we're not being real with what we go through. So it was fantastic to have people be 100% real. That was the first observation. The second observation, I asked it like, hey, are we still early, or are we late to the party? Are other companies already doing this kind of stuff? And without exception, everyone said we're early. They couldn't think of any company doing anything so prolific that it was being talked about across the corporate landscape to address mental health. And the third question, while not 100% of the 80 different chats I had, close to, like somewhere 65, 70 of them said when they are addressing their mental health, they're already using some form of play to support shifting their mental challenges and the emotional fallout that comes from those mental challenges. So to me, that was a first and big epic observation. Like, wow, everything the 3 of us here on this live stream and our partners, who aren't always the face of the company like we are, but we're talking about these things, we're not wrong. I wish we were, and yet here we are. It's true. So that's big observation number 1. Any comments or questions about that, guys?
No, I think it's really interesting. It confirms a lot of what we already knew and what we're working towards. I would be curious to know a little bit more and just maybe some of the individual stories that reconfirm.
Well, I'm glad you asked about that, because I was going there next. So, like, before I go there, I want you to think in your mind of like a mosaic, right? A mosaic is a type of art where you have all these pieces that when you put them together, they make this powerful picture. And that's what I felt like we had. I don't remember everyone. Fact is some of these people, I didn't even know the reach of our campaign on social media to get the word out just organically. Had a guy from India I'd never met before, a doctor, no less, a doctor from Dubai I'd never met before. People literally from all over that I didn't know, but they were drawn to the curious premise of how play and mental health go together. But some of the most powerful ones to me were, when you think of mental health, you think of things like multiple personality disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar, extreme anger, severe depression. I about lost it with tears of joy as I listened to Anna Marie, and Anna Marie lives with her husband and children in the coast of Spain, so on the Mediterranean. And years ago, she was diagnosed with bipolar. And I only know, aside from Anna Marie, two people who have been diagnosed with bipolar. And for both of them, it was almost as if it was a death sentence for their mood swings, right? Like there was no way to control if they're up or down, and I think the terms are manic and maybe depressed. I think those are the two
They used to
polars.
call it manic depressive. Yep, yep.
Yeah. And like that, when it would come, and there's nothing you could do. And when I met Anna Marie, it was virtual during COVID, right? And she'd invited me to her art exhibit virtually. And I thought, well, things seem to be going to be virtual for a while. So why not take a trip to Spain virtually and see her art, right? And of course, it wasn't actually in Spain. It wasn't the metaverse, but it was, out there somewhere up there, whatever they call it. Forgive me, I'm not the tech guy. But I was so impressed because her art was poetry, and then it was pictorials with the poetry.
Oh,
And
cool.
in it, she wrote about this thing called bipolar, but she didn't use those words. And man, I should go back and get it from her. But immediately afterwards, I said, well, thanks for, inviting me. And we began to have late night chats because of the time difference. And then I said, man, we got to talk. And so we finally did a Zoom. We did several Zooms. And she has progressed so far that basically what she said the other day was, I no longer use any medications to regulate my wellness. I use play, I use awareness, I use proper eating and, natural supplements. And she says, I've never been happier, because what I learned is that through a playful mentality, I get a chance to decide what discharges from my body when. She learned all about neurotransmission, right?
Wow.
Andamine and epinephrine. Like, she leaned into this. So I know it took a lot of time on that one, but isn't that epic?
No, that's huge. Think about it, a drug-free solution for bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
That's epic.
And this one may be something both of you are a little more familiar with. I hear about it all the time. People who use medications to regulate their attention or their sense of depression, right? And I've had the pleasure of coaching people who weeks later, like, they never told me while I was coaching them that they were using medications, prescribed medications, to deal with mental health. And later they'd come up to me after, months later, after we'd done their coaching, or in two cases I remember, and this is a little tangential, but to the point, because these people weren't on the call, but they would come up and say, hey, I'm off my meds.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, yeah, it is powerful. And I've never been on meds for anything, except when I got valley fever and double pneumonia at the same time. They were pumping a million things into me, but that was not a lifetime subscription to, you got to do this because something's wrong with you, right? Like, so I've never understood, and I can't possibly understand what it means for someone to say I'm off my meds, but like, this is the power of play. Take it a step further. My dear friend Charlie Reed, who lives where I just came from, Scottsdale, Arizona. Charlie, oh man, I know she won't mind. I'm going to give another example too. She wasn't on the call. She couldn't be. She was in Joshua Tree, our business partner, Bree. But Charlie was diagnosed with more than whatever stage 1 is, but not stage 4. But she had serious developed breast cancer. And she said, I'm not going the medical route. I am going to find a way. So her way included playing by exploring in jungles, which would heighten her curiosity. And of course, she was going to these jungles because she became a huge advocate and subscriber to the use of plant-based medicines and therapies, some of which had psychedelic properties, other of which just had healing properties, all of which made her wildly curious. Now, I don't know what the correlation is between all the dopamine that came rushing into her system all the time because of that curiosity, but today she's gone a totally different way, right? Like, so exciting. And she actually left on a plane yesterday from Phoenix to go back to the jungle for an entire month with a doctor to learn a deeper sense of awareness about all this stuff. So, like, I think the big thing I want to say on the clinical side is these diagnoses or diagnoses. What is that? Diagnosis?
I think you said it right.
Yeah. Oh man, it's Friday and I don't think I've slept much since I was swinging, honestly, because I've been on the road so much. But like that part of the deep dark state of the diagnosis is people give more credence to the history of what something has done to others in the past than to their own willpower and choice to see it differently today. Yeah. Now, I know all that's kind of deep. And an HR person on this call or a C-suite leader on this call might be saying, yeah, that's great, but that's not my responsibility. So I want to, can I keep going?
Yes, yeah. No,
okay.
You're on a roll.
All right. Like, I just don't want to monopolize, but I want to get these ideas out. Well, if you don't think it's your role, what is your role when you make 400 times more than the average employee who works for you? What's your role, right? Like last night I had dinner with a guy named Brian North. I know he's not here because he can never be here because he's always being with his people. He's amazing. But Brian and I were talking, and Brian's business, like if we walked into it tomorrow, is what we want every business to be after Play Lab has helped them experiment with play. Like he gets into it. His nickname is B Coaster, like a roller coaster, because he wears his emotions on his sleeves. So when he's up, everyone's feeling it. And when he's down, they're feeling it. And he doesn't stay down long. But the point is this. He's created a work environment where even as the CEO, if he's having a shitty day, people know it. And which gives them the freedom to roll in the same way. Yeah. And then it gives the entire culture the ability to say, let's rush to each other like emotional antibodies attacking the virus of whatever that negative thinking is. You like that?
I love that analogy, man. And
me too. That just came off the top of my head.
No, that's cool. And imagine how freeing that must feel to, as anybody working in that environment. You can actually be yourself emotionally.
To not do that mask, right? Like we
take the mask off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, Anastasia.
See,
And
what reminded me when you were talking about the different disorders or diseases, right? Like especially chronic one, and then how play or kind of these different more mental things had a huge, huge impact on kind of these physiological things. And it reminded me of the book. I don't know if you had a chance to read it by Lipton. It's called what is it called? The
biology
Biology
of
of Belief.
belief.
Yes, I feel like everybody needs to read it because it so well describes what exactly what you just said, that our mental state, that residency that we have, the frequency, the energy, whatever you want to call it, that does have an impact physiologically in the kind of diseases that we
Mhm.
manifest, or the opposite of it, right? Like you have a potentially chronic disease and then you shift your energy and then mental frequency, and then it sounds like a spontaneous, you know, remission, but a lot of times there's a biology behind it, and it's just fascinating.
It's like
So
the placebo effect, right? And
yes.
I saw recently that they're actually doing a study on the placebo effect to see its efficacy in healthcare. It's
Yeah.
crazy, huh? Yeah.
Well, back to what's the responsibility of HR. Last night I had drinks and appetizers after I had dinner with Brian, with my former CFO when I was CEO of a publicly traded mining company. And this guy's big dog. Like, he was the guy who launched the Ameriprise Financial Services division of American Express, right? He took air gas to like a $4 billion company, and he's brilliant. But the reason I brought him into the mining deal was because he was a people kind of operator, not just a books, right? So I knew we could build culture together. Last night, we just talked story for like an hour and a half, laughed our ass off. But when we got down to the brass tacks, one of the things he said was like, there is and he and I are both like at the cutting edge of Gen X. Like, we're supposed to have a little bit baby boomer in us, but both of us like totally defy that. We want nothing to do with it. And so he was talking, he said, Steve, he said, you're onto something big. Like there is just no one flat out coming to the table and saying, when are we going to write people down on the balance sheet as part of the value of the company, and then treat them like stock to ensure they grow in value?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, people are so worried about the company stock price, they'll cover up people issues, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really big challenge in the workplace. And so one of the things that came very clear after we were talking to all the people I was with this past week is that there is a real opportunity right now in the workplace to lean into the mental health crisis and say, you have a moral obligation to do something at your office, at your company, at your headquarters, to make a difference in people's lives. Because if you don't, you're going to lose those people. Not simply like from the company, you may see people die, like see people go into dark places. And that kind of leads me to the really great news. Of course, we're not at liberty to share specifics because we're not there yet. But part of what this trip I've been on was about, and it will be again tonight. I'm going out to, is it called Corona Island, I think, or Coronado Island? Yeah, Corona. That's the beer I'm thinking about next. Coronado Island. I'm going out to Coronado Island to meet with one of our investors. And he's a great partner and friend of the company, but he's having a bunch of people over his house tonight. And he wants me to just kind of float test our ideas and what you guys are working on for us, our amazing new gamified ways to put our pulse on stuff, right? And so that stuff I had a chance to validate in a big way in a lunch with a guy who worked at an incubator company when I was just a one-man show 5, 6, 7 years ago, before, the 5 or 6 of us are partners now and all we're doing. And he said, wow, your stuff is so advanced, and it sounds like you're almost ready to present something that's scalable, that has huge value, and that really can change the dynamic of mental health in the workplace. And this is what he said to me. He said, let's get it right in the next 60 days, because I have such and such and so, and then which were pretty impressive in and of themselves. And then, oh, by the way, this company that I want to put you in front of, we can't tell you who yet, but when I tell you it is a globally recognized brand, like it warms my heart to know that people are starting to say they have to address the problem.
Yeah.
It warms my heart even more that we might be able to get in there and be part of the solution. So yeah, there's a real need there, and people are starting to wake up.
And it's been brewing for some time, right? Like the future of work, some of this, terminology. I feel like it's been available for minimum, 10 years, right? But it's been like brewing in the way that buzzy words, people kind of like, yes, we're going to engage employees, we're going to do this, mental health in the workplace. But I feel what's been missing is real solutions, right?
Yes.
The problem has been apparent. It's been kind of out there, but yeah, I really believe that finding that key to the lock, that's where like we make a difference. And I feel like it's hard to argue that play can be that key, right? It's hard to argue. There's many different ways we can approach it, right? But play, and as a general sense, I feel like it's such a easy thing for people to kind of like, oh yeah, right? Like it's hard for me to imagine somebody who would question just that general concept. Of course, execution is always important, and what the real thing will look like. But yeah, as a mission, as a kind of drive, as an inspiration, we want to call it play. I feel like it's such a relatable thing.
Yeah, it is. And let's connect the dots for the people. Like what we're saying is, think about kids when they play. They are emotionally safe. They're not like, I did a post earlier today because I was at Union and Station up in LA, and I just started having a conversation with a stranger. And I was impacted by how deeply that stranger felt warmth from a smile, a hello, and how you doing? Mm-hmm. And then I was remember what we were like as kids. Be wary of stranger danger. Right. Like, I mean, and I think that's probably just, I don't know if that's a European thing. Anastasia, did you get here when you were still a teen, or did you come here later?
Yes, I was 14. And definitely that concept of stranger danger, I heard it here. Definitely was like, oh, like don't talk to like strange men, right? But there's some of it in Russia as well. Where
okay, yeah, I was curious if like, obviously not with those words, but if that same pervasive energy, like we are living today, the fruit of horrible stuff taught to us 45 and 50 years ago. Because today you can hardly get someone to go look up and smile, make eye contact, nonetheless talk, right? So think about this for a moment. Kids throw away stranger danger, and they're totally mentally pliable, and they're totally available to connect with whoever they're playing with. No one would disagree with that, right? So the reason I bring that up is because play as a state of being creates psychological safety. And that, of course, is the big buzz term we hear in the workplace. Am I safe? And they should ask that. Post-pandemic, the fact that you have all these generational different values and languages. I mean, what's the hot thing right now in the news? In comes Elon Musk. And, if he has any ounce of humanology in him, he's never demonstrated it in his post or publicly. He walks into the Twitter yesterday with a sink and says, let it sink in. Things are going to change. Like, how does that help culture? And of course he's who he is, and I can't be his judge, but like, there's a better way to use play, create that pliability and that safety. And the minute I feel pliable and safe and I'm having fun, I want more of it. So when we're thinking about this idea, all three of us could have conversations with anyone listening to this now or later and tell you, no, we're not advocating for recess. Although that's not bad either, right? I mean, but what we're really suggesting is there are ways within. Sorry, I told you I was at a train station. We're working. I love that sound, by the way. It makes me feel like a kid.
On the board.
Yeah, which, by the way, is one more way to access play, memory, right? Like, that's just a memory for me. Maybe trains terrify other kids and they don't like them, right? But back to the point that there are many, many mechanisms whereby we can excite or incite human curiosity. And when we've done that, we're at the gateway to play. And it will look different for everyone. But when you hear this, I hope you'll reach out to us. If you're hearing it now, I hope you'll follow up with us. Like, Play Lab is on a bona fide mission to create happy, playful humans in the workplace. And these are the last thoughts I have, and I'll turn it back to you. The other big thing I saw is we had a set of 20, 30 volunteers come through. Matt, I don't know if you've seen the final signatures, and not everybody needed to sign them, but there were a lot of faces I didn't know. And there were 3 faces in particular that I know very well because I've coached all 3 of them in these things for 7 or 8 years. Fact is while we were on this, I got a message from Alex, said, I need some play coaching soon. Literally just came through. And so those 3 guys were kind of running point on getting us a crew. But what I was observing is that as I was interacting with people and letting them talk and then kind of, decorating their cake with my additional thoughts, right? Just giving it more color or flavor. When we would have a lapse, because as you know, for a while there, we were going one by one by one. But whenever there was a lapse, those volunteers would come up right next to me at the swing and start asking questions and 2 of them engineers, 1 a financial planner, like very not into this kind of stuff. And the other thing I saw was by the end, every one of them was an advocate for us. Many of them came back as I was getting off the swing to be there and take a picture with me. And like, I was just blown away at how by them just seeing what we're doing, I hate the word converts because we're not out on some crusade, but you could see their entire demeanor around this change. I got the warmest message from a guy named Daniel Dickler, who I play golf with. He's from Germany. And oftentimes Germans are very structured in their thought. And he's an engineer, so he's all that. And his message was, you did a fabulous job. I can't tell you how much I gleaned just by listening to you and other people. Play must be central in my life, like with purpose. So that's a lot in 32 minutes, but hopefully it helps people.
No, so important.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't you guys real quick before we let them go, or this broadcast go, tease them a little bit with a couple things we got coming up. I mean, I know we're not totally in a place to tell what it's all about, but you 2 and Derek are working on some real cool things right now that we intend to hopefully pre-sell before the year's over and launch into the new year, giving people some great tools in the workplace with mental health. Talk about that a little bit before we say goodbye.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we got a great program. This won't be like your typical training program or coaching program that you're used to. It's going to be very interactive, very fun and playful, of course. And that's the whole, the key and core to it. So, and maybe Anastasia, you want to throw in a few words yourself?
Yeah, I guess just as a teaser, think about just going on an adventure. Well, and there's going to be lots of opportunities to do some work on yourself and kind of understanding some of those tools that will give you, again, in the playful way, but also about the community you're in and whether it's at work or wherever you're coming from. And so I think that that's the piece that sort of ties everything together, that adventure, to experiment, to play, to learn. I think that that's what really this is about.
Yeah. When we all came together, the one thing we could all agree on is every human being is at their highest state of authenticity, their highest state of engagement, their highest state of self-alignment and conscious awareness when they're in a playful state. So why not bring that to the workplace and turn it into a playground of productivity, transparency, healing, stickiness where people don't leave. Oh my gosh, it's so many good things. And every time we say it, I just like convince myself more. I mean, guys, all week I've not shut up to. If a person walks by me and I'm not on the phone, I'm starting a conversation.
Oh yeah,
I think I got playitis.
Well, hopefully it's contagious.
Yeah, right. Because this is a pandemic worth starting.
Exactly. I hear you.
All right, guys. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful weekend. I know when I get back to Hawaii next week, we got a lot to get going with. And I'm going to finally take some time this weekend and chop up some of my own thought and get a lot of posts out over the weekend. And I know next week we're going to start getting snippets of all these amazing conversations out as well. Because don't forget, if you're listening to this, that wasn't the end. That was the beginning of something we call the Swing Into Mental Health Challenge. I have not seen it take traction just yet, but all three of us have been very busy this week. And I know next week we're going to dig in. You're going to see a lot of us posting and tagging others. Like, just go do something fun, take a picture of it, tag 3 people, and tell them to go swing into mental health. Have some fun.
Yeah.
I love it. That's
Much
all.
aloha.
Aloha, Steve. We'll see you next time.
Miss you guys. We'll talk soon.
Yep.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks.